I mean, there is so much in this season. It's really wonderful. Kind of that with each episode, it's kind of it's you get deeper and deeper with every episode that kind of takes you further into the story with things that we know, with things that we're waiting with anticipation to happen, but with a lot of surprises along the way as well. How does it feel that it's done?
It's very strange. It comes in waves. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the first being done the first time was finishing the last script. That happened right before the writer's strike. So like
Whoa.
finaling that, you know, because we worked the scripts to death and getting it perfect, that was a big marker. Finishing the mixing and the coloring was another. I mean, it's fortunate I have a long, for the actors, they walk away and it's just over.
Yeah.
And for my brother and I and Zana, I mean, we get a decent interval of grief along the way. I will say, I mean, the hardest thing to give up, because the show is so all consuming. It's not just the writing; it's all the designing. I mean, everything has to be designed, and so I lived in a really maximally imaginative place for 5.5 years of every single day, and you do it every day, and more and more and more, and you begin to think that's normal. It's a great place to hide out. It's a great drug. It's a bit forlorn giving that up, to not be making up thousands of things every day.
It gives us the breadth of so much. So it gives us, you know, this wonderful poster behind you is a great example of that in terms of the simplicity of a field, you know, ready for harvest, to a stormtrooper. You know, that kind of the beautiful natural world, and then these incredible kind of new worlds that are created through production design. And that goes across so many of the departments, you know, the small moments within relationships that we see in scenes, to kind of big set pieces, the music, small intimate pieces of music, to big grand pieces. Those kind of two extremes are something that the show really does so wonderfully across all those different kind of departments.
I think everything that's good has dynamics. I mean, dynamics.
Dynamics done well.
I guess so, but I mean, it's. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's. I don't know. I don't want to say it's conscious. It's intuitive at this point. I think you learn over time that you can't keep the volume on 11 all the time,
Yeah.
right? And the other thing is that I think tempo is a huge thing for me, and whether things sit in the pocket, and my brother John who edits, and we're all the way through, and it's variations in tempo and controlling the tempo and the dynamics. Yeah, I mean, you want that stuff to work. I think all things that have quality have those variations, and they're calibrated that you're not even aware that they're happening.
And giving things time. That's another thing that I really
Time.
noticed about this
I know.
season. Is about giving scenes time to play out, giving us an audience a moment to take something in. So it's not cutting quickly to something. So it almost kind of lets us sit in that moment with that character, with that situation that they've just been through, that we can almost sit and go through it with them as well. It's the pace of it is just beautiful.
Well, thank you. That's the luxury of the television writing.
Yeah.
That's the luxury of it. I never worry. You know, you're a screenwriter. You are just. I can't even tell you how conscious you are of the page you're on, and the limited time you have. And every screenwriter will tell you the same thing. It's a really harsh thing to grow up, and that's how we trained. And it's very liberating to have that off. I think it's good to keep the old metric in your head, where like you don't want to bore people, you don't want to stick around. Even you see scenes and have a cup of coffee, and it's good to have I think it's really good to have the discipline baked into you in a way, and then be set free.
Yeah. Let's talk music.
Yeah.
We talked at length about Nicholas in the first season, and so the first season comes with a kind of history and and there's a presence there in terms of music and what's associated with this world. Nicholas did an incredible job with season 1 and that theme, but there's so much music in this show, and I've got kind of crazy notes that I was putting on my phone whilst I was watching all the episodes, and so much to kind of talk about. How did you approach coming into 2? Thinking about the music and working with Brandon Roberts as the composer on this season as well. What were the kind of conversations?
We came out of the strike, and everything was in disarray.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just us. Nick had multiple responsibilities for multiple projects. It was a huge traffic jam.
Yeah.
And his father passed away at the same time, and it was just it was really complicated. And we had 10 hours of music from season 1, 10, 11 hours of music, and we have all the themes. We have huge swashes of,
Yeah.
and with music, you know, they're all plastic, and you're going to use them all over again. It's no good if I invent a theme for you and people love it and they identify you when they're there, and I've done it 4 different ways already. Well, I want to continue on with it. So we
Yeah.
had a lot of genetic material to carry on. And we found Brandon was just a godsend because he's really talented and more talented than he knows, I think, and a beautiful guy. But he also had no ego or territorialism about how much of Nick's music we would reuse and retask. All the places where we needed new material, in some cases it has to blend with, it has to work in concert with that. Brandon just did an amazing job, both technically, because part of it is that sort of clinical technical part of it of coming in after somebody, but then also just when we needed him to invent things, he just was, I mean, really beautiful. It was really, it went from being a very scary chapter to being a triumph for us. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one, I'm going to start off with this one, the wedding episode, and it brings a whole new meaning to a disco ball. To be
Well, that's a song, the Namos song, is, Nick and I did Namos for Namos when he goes the first time. And then we thought, we needed source music. It's very hard to do source music. It's the hardest music to do in the show is source music.
Yeah.
So we needed source music for the brothel. And we needed source music. And he's like, why don't we... And he played me a piece one day, and I was like, well, that's cool. And it was the slowed down, like, backwards version of the Namos thing. And I go, God, what if that's a galactic hit? And, like, everybody's into it. So we used it in Mon Mothma's embassy party as well as cocktail music in the background. So I always knew, he said, okay, at the wedding, we're going to have this huge piece, and we need to remix it, you know, the real full EDM version of it. We did that with Brandon in the end. We ended up going to Tarzana and doing that. But, like... Yeah, no. Namos. The exclamation point. Yeah, no.
And the ending of that, you know, when we see Mon Mothma, that's beautiful to watch. Just the hair and the kind of the gay abandonment and just the freedom that you never see with that character apart from at that moment.
She's so messed up at that moment.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I know.
But the music really kind of gives that liberation, which is beautiful.
Well, we knew we were going to try to, I mean, did we know? The ambition was to try to use that piece of music as the wraparound music for an entire crescendo of varying events. There were some people that were really doubtful. I don't know, that's not going to really, is it really going to work at this point? But we, John Gilroy, Brandon, John Finkley, myself, I mean, it would be, you would be shocked at the number of, the amount of hours we put into figuring out how to do that. And to make it look like it's nothing, really.
Yeah.
You got to make it look. In the end, you want it to just look like it's nothing. Well, of course it would be that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a lot of thought went into that.
Because what I love about this show as well is you're almost anticipating the kind of audiences, how we feel at the end of an episode, because the music that kind of hits as the episode finishes is different for every episode, and it's really considered for us as an audience in terms of it's almost continuing the story in a way, but it's also there as a kind of companion for us to kind of go.
Hopefully,
yeah.
We're also, I mean, you know, we've kept the tradition that we had in the first season of changing the arrangement on the title sequence, all the way through, and we're also, in some cases, we're making announcements about what's coming.
How do you verbalize or kind of communicate that with Brandon in terms of? Are you talking to him about, okay, this is the theme or the emotion within this episode or the character, so we want to tweak this, or what's the kind of, how do you...
Well, I mean, it started in season 1, it's like when we went to the funeral on Ferrex, you haven't seen the Daughters of Ferrex band yet, you're not going to see them for 45 minutes, but it was like, oh, let's have a really corny, out-of-tune, civic, mournful version of it. In this, what's a really memorable one here? There's an episode where where Clea starts on the radio and she's doing all her fractal radio survey of all the things they're surveilling, and it's this mad mashup. We're going to come in. So let's do a mashup. Let's mash up our thing so it leads into her, and so they're just fun to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we had ones that we didn't use, but they always want to be the best ones are the ones that announce what's coming.
Yeah. There's some of the cues as well of that episode 5, listening to the radio recordings, I'd put that down.
Yeah, it's a cool one. Yeah, it's a really cool one.
Cool.
Yeah.
In episode 4, this incredible cue that is from where Bix's trauma and it goes into Gorman, and that kind of is just that's the thing. I mean that character and what she kind of goes through in this particular season is particularly when we get to the end of this season, it's like, whoa, not to give anything away. It's so hard to talk about things actually in much detail. Without,
I don't know when you're going to publish.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I can always hold it back towards.
Yeah, no, I
the
mean,
end of the season.
we're asking everybody
great,
to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But you have a lot of those themes there, like we were talking about, that brought over from season 1, but they have to be relevant to where we are with the characters in this story in terms of how you expand them, how you kind of weigh them up or make them weightier in terms of where we are with things as well.
Sometimes it's as simple as just what the instrumentation is. Sometimes it's changing the instrumentation. Sometimes it's changing the tempo. Sometimes it's we spend a lot of time making sure that the music is in the same perspective as the scene in terms of the verb and the echo and the depth of it. We spend a lot of time adjusting and making things more present when things are more intimate and being conscious of that. Sometimes just really simple things like that are incredibly effective, but every single one of them is a decision.
Yeah. What about voice? We have that scene where where they're singing their national anthem, and that's incredible.
That's my song. I got my songwriting credit on that. I know. Nick and I wrote it together now. I want to be in the. I want to write some other national anthems.
Yeah, there we go.
It was fun. Yeah.
You could do with a few new ones.
Yeah.
What's the kind of?
We listen to a lot of national anthems, and there's some really terrible ones. I will not name who they are. Some people have great ones.
Yeah.
And some people have some really lame anthems.
Billy Connolly used to do this brilliant sketch about national anthems.
Oh, really?
Where he used to go about, if you imagine the kind of, your group of Olympians going around the track at Olympics, and they're all kind of like dragging their knuckles because the national anthem is so depressing.
I know.
And then you get ones from around the world where they're almost skipping. It's I know. It's really fun.
Yeah.
But how do you write a national anthem? How do you write an anthem for
how did we do that? We knew we needed it. We needed a title. I sort of came up with some lyrics, and then they were going to be translated into Gore, but we wanted to be able to have something to hang on to. Nick gave me the verse, and I think he thought we could just get away with the verse, and we had the verse. And I went home, and I thought, God, it's incomplete. And I started messing around on my daughter's piano and came up with the chorus. And brought it back and go, am I allowed to do this? Are you going to freak out if I do? And he's like, no, this is freaking great. Let's put this. No, we're like, holy crap. And we put it together and like, wow, this is really cool. Then we had it, because we were developing the language at the same time, we had it fully translated into Gore. Wow. We tweaked a couple things, and then we taught it to people.
How do you write a language? How do you create a language?
Look, we did Canary. We did a little bit of Aldani. Marina Tyndall, who was Diego's dialect coach, some other people. You build a lexicon. When we started casting all the French actors to be in Gorman, we wanted something that would come out of the French mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds too Yiddish. That sounds too Hungarian. That sounds too Slavic. And we dialed it in, and then you develop a vocabulary and a syntax. And I had dinner with the Gorman actors in Paris the day before yesterday, and they got to the point where they could actually speak to each other in their trailers in Gore. Wow. Yeah, it's not like they just knew the little bits. They actually could go. Or I don't think there's any scenes where they're improvising, but they could.
Wow.
They knew it. They've all forgotten it now. But.
What's it like to hear that back though? Hear that choir of that anthem
when
that
they
you've,
sing?
yeah, when they sing.
Oh my God.
Because it's acoustic. There's no instrumentation. It's all voice.
No, it's just, oh my God, we had so much fun with it. And there was, you can imagine, because everything's side projects and everything's rehearsed, and so there was lots of rehearsals. So we had a good expectation from the rehearsal hall how it was going to sound and what it sounded like with 150 people. Then we had to teach it to all the extras, you know, and it's thrilling. It's thrilling. Oh my God. And then it works, and it's meant to be a really heartbreaking moment. Yeah.
It's the weight that it carries for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that they don't expect, the naivete that they have to think that will be okay.
Yeah. And then on the other end of that, we've got the theme tune for Ruby Wax's chat show.
Yeah. Mafia and Toffee. Yes. Good morning, Coruscant.
I was like proper like belly laughed when I was, that is genius. That's, I mean, a great little, that's the thing tonally in terms of just giving us these light
I don't even know who wrote that cue. Who wrote that cue? I'm not
didn't
sure.
write the theme tune as well as the national anthem?
No. That's one of the guys. No.
There's another piece as well. I mean, I've got so many kind of just little notes here. The cue when the healer, when we see this woman who kind of sort of really resonates something or sees or feels something with Cassian, telling Bix what she felt. It's so gentle and beautiful and emotional. And that moment where we have music around new characters and new situations that can really floor us, because that music is almost speaking to us in a way that, you know, music does. Anyway.
Very vulnerable moment in the story and the script and the shooting and the concept. Very vulnerable. So many ways that could go wrong for me.
Yeah.
A lot of ways that might be happy for other people, but go wrong for me. So a lot of effort went into making it fragile, and it can't be cheesy.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, sometimes cues ask for things, sometimes they tell you things. It can't do either of those things. It basically just has to say, hey, this thing is happening, you should pay a little bit of extra attention to it, and it's fragile, and maybe it's not really what you think it is. It was a very tricky cue to, you really picked a tricky cue. That got a lot of work went into that cue.
Yeah. What I love
I turned down a lot of cues to get that cue, yeah. Yeah, when we say work, it means me saying no.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we work, no.
That's what I think's brilliant about the show, is that we have such, you know, I talked earlier about that kind of range of power of the music, you know, from very, like we're just talking about, to big moments, but you never kind of, you know, with the original films you have that dun 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 dun, dun, you know, it's kind of the bad guys are coming in.
Yeah.
There's so much more complexity to the characters and the situations in this, in terms of not everything might be as it seems. There's things that there's a lot of secrecy, there's a lot of manipulation going on as well, and the music does a great job in not revealing too much before we need to be aware of it. You know, it's kind of, it's.
I mean, you're really into. I mean, I love that we're talking about this, and it's the happiest place for me on the whole show. It's the happiest process of all of the many villages that one visits along the way. It's the happiest place for me. I mean, I thought I knew a lot about scoring before I came on this show. I had to rethink everything I've ever done, and this is like doing 20 movies. I have so many opinions now about how to spot and about how music arrives and what it can do. I mean, it's a subject that you can just live in forever. How a cue arrives and whose cue is it is so such a subliminal thing, and I never really realized it before. If you're having a scene with several people, and who really, whose cue is it, and also the bravery to not use music.
Yeah.
The places where we don't use music are as important as the places where we do, and a lot of controversy on some of those. Oh my God, and you know, and I'll go in and Johnny will have put music on it. Just, you got to see what this looks like with music. I know what it looks like. I can hear it, and we're not doing that. We're just not going to do it. And I've been turned around places. There's places where I was being too rigorous about not putting music in, and I've, you know, the team has beaten me about the head until I've come around to their point of view. Yeah.
in terms of like, these 12 episodes, did you change anything along the way? In terms of the start
From
point.
when to when?
Well, once, I don't know, not maybe not when you started shooting, because there's a lot of planning obviously goes into what you need to shoot when, sort of thing as well. But in terms of, there are some really hard moments in this season that kind of like sucker punch you in various ways.
Right.
But as Rogue did, do you know what I mean? That was what was so powerful about that film. But I don't know, is it kind of when you're discussing or you're thinking about what you're putting into those 12 episodes, is there any moment where you're going, no, we can't do that, or we need to push it further, or we need to pull back in terms of what are the parameters that you set yourself with?
Well, and we're limited to what we can do sexually. We're limited to what we can do with violence. So there's a governor on that. But I'm trying to think if there's anything that we thought was too hardcore. Probably not. I mean, the situation through the show, the thing that makes it so much fun to make and deal with is, what are you looking for in all the time? You're looking for characters to make decisions that are difficult, right?
Yeah.
And if you're most movies, you're looking for the few opportunities you have for that to happen. In this show, that pattern organically, properly, without any manipulation, arrives all the time. I think Bo Willimon's one of the writers on the show, and I worked for Bo on House of Cards as a sort of consultant for a couple of years. And one of the things that fascinated me when he went on Cards was just the degree of difficulty that he would make the story, and he would just make it so difficult all the time. And people, the room would figure it out and do the thing, and then he'd make it worse. And like, why are you? And like, and something good always came out of it. So I don't know if I ever backed away from anything that was like dramatic. I think I kind of would go toward that.
Yeah.
But
you feel that, even in the kind of like the PTSD that Bix is going through,
right.
or those decisions that Cassian's making, and so many other characters as well, and also
and points where people live and die, characters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
and the richness of the characters as well and their stories is, is testament to the writing and how you've written these characters, that we could easily have a spin-off series on Cyril, and seeing the shift in that character is really interesting, and how visually we see him change, as well as kind of how he emotionally sort of softens as well. There's so many subtleties in all that as well. And Denise Gough, oh my God, that character in this is just touch. The touch moments are, it's like it's...
No, she's something special.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't even any questions. That was just me throwing thoughts at you.
No, go for it. No.
How do you write, like, let's take Denise's character, as an example, and the performance that she brings to that script in those moments where she's cracking, whether it be where she's, having those moments with her boss, or whether she's in those situations where she's being physically poked, whether it be with Ben's character or whether it be with Cyril, in those moments where there's physical connection there, physical touch there as well. How do you write the reaction of an actor, or how you're expecting an actor to portray that in a script? Or is that down to heart?
I could give an answer that is not how I work. I don't work from any agenda. It's the thing that's somewhat perverted about going out and selling and doing interviews, because a lot of times you talk about the agendas and the ideas, and it would be so false to give anybody the idea that that's how I work. I work from a petri dish, from a microscope out. So, and then I have her voice in my head, and I know her by now. I think if I step out and I look at it for this conversation after the fact, forensically, she's a character who doesn't have any alternatives.
Yeah.
There's no other life for her. I mean, and there's probably people in your life that maybe have that, but this is an extreme case. She has no backup plan. There's no other gig she's going to go do. She has cast her lot, and I think what's fascinating about the relationship with Cyril is that, as he says, I want what you want. We want the same thing. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they do want the same thing, but the way they get there is completely different. He's a romantic. He's a fantasist. His inner monologue must be just deafening, and she has none of that. Her imagination is strictly limited to, I think, not limited, but put into a box of effectiveness, and that's going to be a problem for them. That's their problem. But I don't write with an idea. I'm in the person. Oh my God, what would she say next? And what, it's just intuitive. Yeah.
And with the music around that character, in terms of that's an interesting sort of road to walk down in terms of how much music the themes you give around that character, because it can soften her. It can give her emotion.
She gets wrapped up. There's a couple places where she and Cyril, where Cyril takes the cue. The cue I love is when they're getting ready for lunch.
Yeah, when the mom's coming round.
When she's coming, and all of a sudden, and Brandon called me one day. He goes, "Oh, good." He goes, "You're either gonna love this or you're gonna hate it." He goes, "But and I go, and it's like a 1960s TV theme. I'm like, this is freaking great. I love that cue. I love it. And he moves the fork, and everything has to be perfect. It's like, oh God, I love that cue.
That's the thing. There's so much. It's so rich. There's so much. There's
got
so much in there.
12 hours to play with, man. It's a gas to have
Wow.
so much real estate.
And locations, that what I mentioned earlier, that thing of the reality, but also the
Right.
worlds that are created. For you, is there a location from this season that really sticks out for you as being?
Well, the one that really saved the hospital isn't a location. I love that set. But in terms of location, Valencia, Spain really saved our ass. That complex down there, the fact that we could do the Senate on the scale that we do, and then we could use, and then it's always great when you find a location that can double for all kinds of other things, for weather cover and other scenes. And so we had two directors there. Both Ari and Janusz were shooting down there simultaneously because it was working for all kinds of things for us. So that was an incredibly valuable resource. You really, and as a cost-cutting measure, and that saved our ass. Valencia, the Robert Calatrava, crazy. It's an insane.
I think I've been there. It's like a long. It's like
It's just this insane.
But with
public,
a garden in the middle.
But it's huge. It's
yeah.
like 5 concert halls and exhibition spaces, and oh my God, it's massive and weird, and it's perfectly Star Wars. It's the Senate now. I think if they shoot the Senate, they're gonna have to go back there.
Yeah. Well, you say that if they're going to shoot the Senate again. We know the outcome for Cassian, but the end of this episode 12, there could be a future.
It's possible. For them, yeah. No, you want to, yeah. You'll hold all that for sure, but I want to finish on hope. I did it for a bunch of reasons. It makes his not coming back more painful.
Yeah.
It explains for anybody who was in doubt about her leaving why she left, and I do think revolutions are built on hope, and I don't, as dark and hard as the show gets sometimes, I don't ever want to forget that at the end this is really we're leading into a new hope, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're going. So and I feel that way. So that's why we did what we did at the end. Yeah.